Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at this is the general. Their part number is RC-IC7-LZ26D. This is a rim cylinder is what it is. Pretty easy part number, RC rim cylinder. Ic7, it's an interchangeable core 7-pin. It's an LZ, which means it's a lazy action. It's a lazy cylinder. We'll discuss what that means. Okay. So first of all, this is just a rim cylinder. Not anything unusual about this and the fact that it's a rim cylinder. It is a particular rim cylinder. Let's dissect it. So first, let's go over the dimensional properties and we'll talk about where we would use this. The underside of the head to the back of the body, just for reference, is about 1 1/4 inches. The length of the tailpiece from the back of the body is about 2 1/8, just for reference. Diameter of the outside of the face, about 1 5/16 inches. We'd probably call that, a trim head. It's nice and trim, small on the outside. Is going to include a cylinder trim ring or a collar. Cylinder collar would be pretty typical for that. It is a collar. It's a trim ring as well. You would, as a rule, install it with this on the cylinder. You really wouldn't install it without, and that's because the hole that you have to drill is awfully close to that outside dimension for the rim cylinder. The OD of the collar is about 1 3/4 inches. It's going to then finally come with the mounting plate and the 2 screws. Here are the screws. So these are called breakaway screws. They're meant to accommodate different door thicknesses. The length of the screw from the underside of the head is about 2 1/8. That body was whatever that dimension was that I had mentioned earlier. You get all that together and you're going to be able to accommodate a quite thick door is the bottom line. The tailpiece has these marks, these breakaway points. The term breakaway is not really meant for you to take it and try to just snap it. It needs to be carefully cut, whether it is the screw, but absolutely the tailpiece. I had a client about a couple of weeks ago. This was a 40-minute phone conversation. Removing some locks, putting on the same lock in its place, rim cylinders, and a series of events the client went through. All of those events had in common together was not looking at the installation instructions, and I was very happy to be able to go through it with the client. But one of those events was literally because the instruction said snap. Well, the client just took that and tried to snap it and put the lock together, and the lock didn't work well. It was stiff. And I explained to the client, when we got to the discovering of how that tailpiece was cut, it was bent, possibly imperceptibly, but that tailpiece has to be thoroughly laser beam straight. If it's bent at all, it will go through an arc or an ellipse sort of path as it travels around, and it will cause binding on the lock, female portion of the lock that the tailpiece is entered into. So you're going to want to cut that carefully once you know what length it needs to be. And plus the client had cut it at a different length and we weren't able to discover why he chose a different length to cut the new tailpiece to and not match the original. But once the length was matched to the original and the tailpiece was hammered flat on his anvil part of his vise, worked just perfect. So the moral of the story is cut that nice and straight, no bend to it. Now, let's talk about where this is going to be used. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Now, where will you use a rim cylinder? Well, a rim cylinder is going to be used in lots of different pieces of hardware. Exit device trims, a rim cylinder is going to be used in. It's going to be used in surface-mounted night latches, surface-mounted deadbolts, whether they have a retractable bolt or a latch, or they've got bolts that drop down, or they have a spring-loaded sort of bolt that comes and closes and engages that and locks together. And all of those locks are all installed using rim cylinders on the outside, because those locks on the inside are mounted on the perimeter of the door. Very common use for rim cylinders. But also, you'll find rim cylinders used in alarm bypasses, very typical. You'll also find them occasionally in a deadbolt, literally a deadbolt that you'd have, a key on the outside, thumb turn on the inside. When you take that lock apart, it's a rim cylinder. And that particular application requires a lazy action tailpiece. Rim cylinders, almost by assurance, are going to be a standard tailpiece, meaning when you encounter a rim cylinder, you put the key in and you turn it, the rotation of the key and the rotation of the tailpiece are completely locked and lined, tied together. So when you turn that 90 degree, that tailpiece will be turned 90 degree. A lazy action doesn't work that way. I can take the key and I could rotate the key and drive the tailpiece. I can then take the key and bring it back vertical and pull the key out without the tailpiece coming back. Let me grab a cylinder and we'll experiment with that. Actually, I've got it right here. And I have a video online that talks about the importance of timing this correctly, which we'll talk about in a moment as well. Okay, I've got a small format. We'll talk about that in a moment, but I've got an interchangeable core installed in there. Operating key. Okay, so I turn the key, I turn the tailpiece. Okay, that's how that should work. Now, I've got that tailpiece. I've got the key inserted. It's flat. I'm going to rotate it 90 degree clockwise. Well, I've actually had to rotate it 180 degrees. Okay, so I've got the tailpiece flat. I'm going to rotate it 180 degrees, my key. Okay, and that throws the tailpiece far enough to throw the latch bolt. Now, I'm going to pinch the tailpiece so it can't move. I'm going to rotate the key back, and it will only make a partial turn. It's not enough of a turn to retract the bolt back. That's the issue. So, to illustrate it maybe a little more cleanly, it's vertical. I rotate it 90 degrees. I can bring the key back and pull the key out without it going through a full reverse rotation. In your mind's eye, imagine when you stick the key in and lock the deadbolt. You're leaving, you're locking the deadbolt. Imagine if every time you pulled the key back to vertical, the bolt unlocked. The fact that this will not, the tailpiece will not come back when you go 90 degrees or 170, 60 degrees, permits that bolt to stay in the locked condition. Conversely, when you come home, you can put the key in, turn it the other way, retract the bolt, and then bring the key back up to vertical so you can pull the key out without relocking the deadbolt. That is what a lazy action tailpiece does. It is required for deadbolts. And I can't honestly think of there must be another application, but I can't think of another application that would require a rim lazy action. Lazy action tailpieces are used for those applications when you need to be able to move the key without directly manipulating the rest of the lock, and that's what it's for. Now, this is an Ic7. That means that this is, from General, that means that this is a small format interchangeable core, and I'm looking for the control key. A small format interchangeable core, and it will accept a 7-pin length cylinder. This is a 6-pin cylinder. It worked just fine. Best makes, because Best is the company that actually patented this concept about 100 years ago. There are 5-pin, 6-pin, and 7-pin cylinders. This will accept any of those. That will work just fine. Spacers do exist on the market, small black round discs that have a couple of holes for the driver. You should have those and drop those in if you're using 6-pin cores like this, or even 5-pin. They exist. I've never seen a 5-pin, but they do exist. So that there's no chance that the core will move. And if you need to purchase those spacers, reach out to us. General does not make those. Best does. Olympus does as well. They make cabinet hardware. So that's what the IC7 is. IC7 is going to stand for, it is literally synonymous with small format. Again, patented by Best in about 1921. Cloned and copied countless times by Falcon and Arrow and so many other people. This offshore brand here that I have in this ancient box. This box is marked July of 2007. Yeah, I think that's 07. So this box is 15 years old at this point, just about. Now, the ring that's here, what you're meant to do, obviously, is to mount that completely straight behind the cylinder. These two small holes are here if you wanted to take a couple of very small screws, like maybe a number 4 pan head, and screw it to the face of the door so that it didn't move. People never do that, although I have seen it done. I've taken locks apart and said, oh, someone took the time to attach that. What you do is you kind of just get the cylinder from the outside through the hole that you've drilled, and an 1¼ inch hole would be okay. You bring that in from the outside, then bring your plate, and then you kind of just get your screws through the hole in the plate and into the back of the unit so that it looks like that. Okay, then your other screw. You'll notice that this tailpiece is sagging. That's a hassle. When you have a lock that you need to stick the cylinder through the door and have it go into. Well, let's do it like this. You can't really get it, and you can't tip it up enough to get that in there. Von Duprin does make a funnel that you can attach to like a rim exit device. If I can, and when I can, I will turn it vertically if my lock will work that way, because then it doesn't droop down like that, and then feed that through the door. It can be maddening to get that tailpiece into the plus sign of a back of a rim lock or an exit device. And that's everything that's in the box. Let's switch to the screen view now, and let's take a closer look at the supporting information. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Okay, here's the cylinder that we're looking at. Let's take a look at some images that we have posted. There's the box. There's the contents. Multiple views of the cylinder itself. That's just machined brass. That's the driver. That's back there. Or the throw member. That's your figure 8, your infinity sign, whatever you want to call it. When it's equal lobes top and bottom, that is a telltale sign of small format or the best type, however you might like to call that. Again, Falcon, Arrow, all major manufacturers pretty much make small format cores too. That goes to show how incredibly deep the market penetration Best has had for the last 10 decades on this product. That's a fascinating story, the patent of the small format interchangeable core. Side view, the back side, showing the cylinder collar, and then the mounting ring and the bolts, and then the collar itself. Okay, let's take a peek at the extended description. 7-pin small format, 2060 is satin chrome, lazy action, and just repeated here. There's a cut sheet linked to down below. Doesn't show much, except it shows the table where the other small format rim housings can be seen. Only 2060 do they make a LZ or a lazy motion. There is a link below this video, as seen here, to the manufacturer's page, where you can pull up not only all of the general products that we sell by means of this horizontal navigation as seen here, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. I would recommend that you review that full product catalog. There's locks, closers, exits, obviously cylinders that are all listed in here. General is an import line of hardware that is generally pretty deep in stock, so if you're looking for low-cost grade 2 lever locks and exit devices and closers, you can probably get it pumped out pretty quickly. When it comes to these rim housings, if you don't need a lazy action, you'll be able to order those to receive Schlage. You can do Schlage in a large format, or what Schlage calls full-size interchangeable core. I don't know what other platforms they offer in rim cylinders for key systems. It might only be small format in Schlage. That does appear. Well, let's get. Yeah, small format, different cams for mortise cylinders. Yeah, that appears to be it. It's going to be small format or some Schlage, some full-size Schlage. Okay, let's wrap up this video on camera. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. In conclusion, if you have any questions on this rim cylinder, this is the RC Ic7 LZ 26D by General. For any other product by General, please feel free to reach out to us. It's pretty uncommon to sell a lazy motion rim cylinder, but you do sell them often enough to where manufacturers actually do provide them. So if there was no demand, they wouldn't be making them, but there's enough demand, and there you go. Any questions on this or any other General product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you. Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.